Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. I just want to say again, this hour of the program has been brought to you by Bruin Remodeling. And Mike joins us from the Raising Cane's guest chair. Game days are better together. Game days are better with Cane's. Raising Cane's, chicken fingers, one love. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good.
We are loaded with Italian Americans today.
If I'm going to be in the Raising Cane's guest chair, I want me some damn Raising Cane's.
This
has been the refrain.
Every person who has sat
I
there.
perked up when I heard it. It's like, oh, maybe we got some Raising Cane's here.
Can we get some chicken here on set?
I want some
for the
chicken
love
here.
of God.
Seriously, good
So
grief.
it's National Italian American Day. Is that
Russo,
what it is?
Pelissero, Florio, and these two jackasses on my left and right.
All right, Mike. Is the scrutiny on the Chiefs fair or warranted?
Scrutiny of what kind?
Yeah, all of it. All of it. The refs give them the calls. There's a conspiracy to prop up the Chiefs. The league wants the Chiefs to do well because of Taylor Swift. Patrick Mahomes is a faker and gets the call. You know, all that.
I don't believe the NFL is rigged. I don't believe they're competent enough to pull it off, and I think they would have to throw too many people into the East River with cement shoes to keep it quiet. That's not realistic. But a couple of years ago, I feel like the wall between football business and football integrity got blurred by the league. Troy Vincent, the executive VP of football operations, went on ESPN's Sunday pregame show to defend an uptick in roughing the passer calls and instances of flags being thrown when it ultimately wasn't anything. Now, it's the only rule in the rule book that says if you're in doubt, throw the flag. But he explained we need to have healthy quarterbacks. We need to have quarterbacks available to play. We have the most watched shows on TV, and the minute that our quarterbacks aren't available because they're getting obliterated by defensive linemen is the moment that people will stop watching. So once you put that in the heads of the officials, you have a subconscious factor that goes along with all the other things as the synapses fire down to the hand, which may or may not pull out the flag. And I think that there is a subconscious bias that protects star quarterbacks. And Mahomes is the beneficiary because he's the guy that's always playing in the big games. If it wasn't him, it would be somebody else. But because the Chiefs are always in these big games, and if it looks close, and, you know, the hit that was controversial from the 6th play from scrimmage in the divisional game against the Texans, when he got hit, it looked helmet to helmet.
Right.
And when you look at it, break it down, slow motion, there really wasn't helmet-to-helmet contact, but it sure looked like it. And when you look at it from the perspective of the official behind, I understand why they threw the flag. I think that bias and that directive, when in doubt, throw the flag, it helps the Chiefs in big games because they're in more big games than anyone else. So that's where it comes from. It's not a conspiracy. It's a byproduct of the NFL's obsession with maximizing ratings and maximizing revenue. And I think it trickles into the brains of the officials.
Real quick, Jim, you want to read the top of the hour sponsor so we can just get that out of the way and we can keep plowing ahead here with Mike?
Yeah, this would have been brought to you by Service Credit Union. They've teamed with Charlie McAvoy again this season for 73 reasons to defend New England's first responders. Visit servicecu.org/73.
And you're listening to WBZ FM HD1 in Boston, here with Mike Florio at the Super Bowl. Does the league have an officiating problem? And let me tell you with my answer first, and I really believe this. I think NFL officiating has never been better. I think they get more calls right than they ever have. I think it gets explained to people better than it ever has with all the ref analysts in the booth as opposed to Dan Deerdorf fumbling around with himself trying to figure out whether it was a forward pass or not.
Deerdorf catching a stray.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though? Like, we remember these days where the color analyst would fumble around in the booth with, like, is that incomplete or not complete? Now it is explained to us. And I think it's actually better than it's ever been. I think people have changed. I think the expectations have changed of the populace, and that's the problem, not the officiating. What do you think?
I think that perception is reality, and the reality is the NFL is a perception problem when it comes to officiating. And the biggest disconnect is what the 7 people, middle-aged and older, are seeing with the naked eye amid the flashes and whirs, and I hope I don't get trampled by the gladiators in full uniform, and what the rest of us see at home in high definition on a flat screen TV. We can see what they can't. And I think it's incumbent on the NFL to bridge that gap. They're doing it slowly. They're taking baby steps. And as they take the baby steps, we realize where the flaws are. Oh, we can use replay assist for that. Oh, wait, we can't use it for the blatant face mask violation that somehow the referee and the umpire didn't see. But 20 million people saw as it happened. They need to blow open the doors to replay assist for everything. They need full-time officials because whatever extra little improvement they get, and there will be some, it creates a better impression that they're doing everything possible to get the calls right. And I think they also need to open the doors to the replay review process like the UFL does. When you hear Dean Blandino or Mike Pereira talk us through why they're doing what they do. Lack of transparency leads to conspiracy theory. And the tinfoil hat crowd, if they could see and hear what goes on when it's time to do a full-blown replay review, that's when people would say, okay, I understand now. No, it's not a conspiracy. They're just incompetent, if they are ultimately incompetent.
Well, it also can't help matters that, marquee guys like Aikman in the booth are looking at plays and then going like, oh, come on. Like, that gets into people's heads, too.
Oh, absolutely. They find the players. And Aikman said he didn't hear from the league. Now, I know from experience they don't always call you directly. They often call the boss, and it makes its way down to you from the boss. So maybe he heard from Jimmy Pitaro. But I haven't written this yet, and I don't want to go too far into how I know this and where this happened. But I've got reason to believe the NFL is becoming increasingly concerned about the supply of officials who choose to do it at the high school level and work their way up. And one of the reasons I believe they're sensitive to criticism of the officials is they think guys and gals are being scared away from taking the heat. Think about
1,000%, Mike. And I'm just sort of because people have gotten
worse.
Stupid.
Yeah,
worse. And so
and you get attacked on social media. You get dogs over your house.
I've heard that they now have to schedule games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday as opposed to just Fridays because they don't have enough officials for just the games on Friday because people are such a-holes to them during the game.
Yep.
And to me, that's what's changed, not the officiating. But so you think, or you believe?
I believe the NFL is concerned about the supply being choked off. We went through 10 years ago the concern that the supply of players from the high school level was going to be cut off by concussions concerns. They're now concerned, I firmly believe, and this will become more apparent when I'm able to write the item at PFT. They are concerned about the supply of officials being cut off by people saying it's not worth it to subject myself to being a high school official.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, joining us here on Radio Row. Mike, do you find what the treatment the Chiefs are getting, the blowback, or whatever favorable treatment fans perceive them to be getting, to be any different than the Patriots? Because, here's my thing. The Patriots fans have a lot of hatred towards the Chiefs, and my thing with the Patriots fans is, well, they're you. I mean, you didn't complain about the pub that Brady and Giselle Bundchen were getting, but now somehow Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are a fraud, or the league's bending over backwards for them. Like, you were just in that spot, and you got calls too, and all of this. So, do you think the Chiefs are just another iteration of the Patriots in that thing, or do they somehow get more favorable treatment than anyone's ever gotten?
No, I think it's human nature to get sick of people that are in your face all the time. And if anything, it's catching up with the Chiefs faster than I thought it would because they acquired the baton directly from the Patriots. We're in an era where, in theory, every team should win the Super Bowl once every 32 years. Everything is evened out. The spending, the draft picks, everything is engineered to have equality. And you've still got a cluster of teams that can't figure out how to tie their own shoes, and you got a cluster of teams that have cracked the code on how to be great. And I think there's a fatigue from just, can we get someone else? Can someone else have a turn? I think that's where it comes from. And I think that it's a normal, natural reaction. I don't like it when folks will wag their fingers about how people should feel. Don't tell people how to feel. They feel how they feel. And they don't want to be preached to by someone like Nate Burleson. Not that I'm criticizing Nate, but when he did that, it's like, Nate, you're missing the point here. You're never going to change how people feel. Be happy you're alive in this moment. If somebody's not happy to be alive in this moment, having Nate Burleson tell them otherwise is only going to make them dig in their heels. Having anybody tell them. When I was a kid and the Steelers were everything in the area where I grew up, you need to be a Steelers fan. Why? Because you need to be. I don't want to be. Well, you better be. I won't be. I wish I had in hindsight. It would have been a better decade than being a Vikings fan, for crying out loud. But that's just human nature. And the harder you try to tell somebody to not feel what they feel, I mean, we've seen it in politics for the last 10 years, for crying out loud, the more they're going to dig in.
How come Bill Belichick doesn't have a job? An NFL job?
Well, he wants one. I firmly believe he wants one. And he took North Carolina as the bird in the hand while he was going to continue to rummage for the two in the NFL bush. I think it's a combination of there isn't a fan base out there that is we want Bill, and I think that would resonate with an owner. And I also think there's not an owner out there that is willing to give the keys to Bill Belichick. And you'd have to displace people you currently employ, and those people, like in Atlanta, they did a nice job of rallying the troops to keep Arthur Blank from wanting to bring in Bill Belichick. And I remember the narrative was, well, he just wants to coach. He won't try to take over. Baloney. If you have Bill Belichick as your coach, he's taken over. You're sitting there with Terry Fontenot, the GM. The GM wants to draft a receiver from UCLA in round 4, and Bill makes that face or grunts or whatever. Terry Fontenot's not drafting that receiver from UCLA, even though it's his decision. So you got to be ready to hand it over to him, and nobody was. And now he's got his consigliere Lombo out there crapping on the NFL any chance he gets. That's not going to get him back in. And I think at some level, Lombardi's playing 4D chess because I don't think Bill could take Lombardi with him to an NFL team. So
because no owner would give him
no owner will let Lombardi back in if they, like the Patriots ran him out, like Bell wanted to keep him, but there was an uprising. We got to get this guy out of here. I think Lombardi is content to stay at North Carolina. Bill at North Carolina. If Bill would go back to the NFL, it would be a hard sell to get Lombardi on board with him.
Do you think there's still a shot that he returns?
I'll never say never, but right now the mood is definitely against it. With each passing year, it's going to get harder and harder. Now, if he has a great season with North Carolina, and I don't believe any of the stuff that Bill says, that Lombardi says, that buyout says it all, and it drops to $1 million on June 1 of this year. You know what $1 million is? $1 million is what Jerry Jones pays per week for the maintenance of his yacht. That's $1 million.
No, he's happy to pay that. He's not happy to pay anyone else $1 million. He's cheap with his football team.
That's true. But my point is, for these multi-billionaires, if you want Bill Belichick, $1 million is nothing. $10 million is nothing. And I think he waited to sign the contract until he knew that all the doors were sealed off. I think if he would have had an NFL opportunity, he would have said, sorry, I didn't sign the contract. Because the term sheet that he signed says this is not a binding legal agreement. I think he was waiting, and I think he wanted back in. When we heard about Brady talking to Belichick, I believe that was a favor to Bill to get his name out there. He's dismayed. He's apoplectic that teams aren't interested, but that's where we are.
You okay with Bill? Did he take a little shot at you the other day at McAfee?
I don't care. I don't care. Come. Welcome to my world. Let's go. my son was like, oh, that's not good. I said, you don't understand. That's great. One of the all-time great coaches acknowledges my existence because I have burrowed under his skin. And Michael Hawley said the same thing. It's like, this is great. He said, I heard that, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
you've arrived.
We're in.
When Bill Belichick calls you out, you have arrived.
So what was it just that he took exception to?
I've been reporting on the fact that people at North Carolina were anxious about the possibility he was going to leave. The commissioner of the ACC was anxious he was going to leave. That the Brady-Belichick phone call leak was a favor to Bill Belichick, that he wants back in. Don't believe what Lombardi's saying. They're going to say whatever they have to say because they're trying to recruit. Now, they think people are trying to anti-recruit by putting that out there. I just want to get to the truth. And we've heard coaches time and again say whatever they have to say strategically. And the example I always use is Nick Saban from December 23 of 2007. I'm not going to be the Alabama coach. 2006, I'm not going to be the Alabama coach. And a week later, he was. So they say what they have to say. He's saying what he has to say. If he had to pat back to the NFL right now, he'd take it.
I agree.
Definitely.
Your view on what's going on in New England this offseason?
I was just going to ask you that.
Well, I think it's encouraging. And they knew they wanted Mike Vrabel. They got Mike Vrabel. They're building the staff. You bring Josh McDaniels back. You look at what he did for that offense all those years. I think that there are people in the NFL that regard Drake May as a very special talent. We've seen flashes. It's about how can you develop him into the best player he can be. Gerard Mayo got his opportunity. There were times during the season where I thought, my God, this guy's trying to talk his way out of a job. And he ultimately did. You know, a big part of being a head coach is being able to handle the media, being able to say the right things at the right time. You can't step all over yourself with mistakes and unforced errors, and it just accumulated. And I really do believe that last month of the season, it fell apart, and Vrabel's in, and I think it's encouraging. And I think they're going to be in that group of teams where we're really not sure what to think. Let's see what happens. So the bar won't be high, the bar won't be low, and they'll have an opportunity to take one of those playoff spots next year.
Okay, do you think ownership is on, I'm going to say solid footing? I don't know how I want to put it. I feel they've had a run here of 5 years, you know, not even the last couple, but even going back into the end of Belichick's tenure here. Some pretty bad hires, bad decision-making, bad staffing, cutting corners. I feel like they've lost their way as decision makers a little bit. Is that the view nationally, or is that just us because we're looking at it so closely?
I think it's fair. I think that there was always going to be a major bill to pay when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick left. And we didn't anticipate it happening the way it did, where Brady leaves kind of at the behest of Belichick, and Brady goes and wins a Super Bowl right away, and you see the deterioration slowly, that crazy-ass make Matt Patricia the offensive coordinator decision, and it's like, we've lost our way. What do we got to do? And they tried removing the Band-Aid once, and they put the Band-Aid on the wrong guy with Gerard Mayo. So now, grand scheme of things, not much time has passed. It was always going to be awkward once we got past the championship era, and now they try to lay the foundation with a guy who I think is the perfect blend, and people have said this, and I think it's accurate, Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells. Mike Vrabel will punch you in the face while he's making you smile. I love his personality, and he's as detail-oriented as Bill Belichick. You know, he had that thing with the deliberate penalty that milked the clock, and he out-Belichicked, and they closed the loophole. It's just like getting called out by Belichick. When they're changing rules because of things you've done, you've shown you know how to coach, and Vrabel knows how to coach.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.